The massive space station floating above Rigel Prime buzzed with activity as thousands of alien technicians worked at glowing control panels. Admiral Kong stood on the main command deck, his dark eyes watching the holographic displays that showed star systems across the galaxy. Tonight was the night they would solve the human problem forever. "Sir, all 17 psychic arrays are online and ready," reported Lieutenant Han, checking his tablet. The young officer's voice carried a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was the biggest operation the Galactic Confederation had ever attempted. Kong nodded slowly. For too long, humans had been a thorn in the side of galactic peace. They were too curious, too stubborn, too willing to make friends with every alien species they met. They asked too many questions and refused to follow the established order that had kept the galaxy stable for centuries. Worse, other species actually liked them. "Begin Operation Clean Slate," Kong commanded. Across 17 star systems, massive quantum machines hummed to life. These weren't ordinary computers, they were psychic manipulators that could reach into the minds of every thinking being in the galaxy. The technology had taken decades to develop and cost more than most planets earned in a year. The first phase targeted the databases. Every computer system, every digital archive, every electronic record that mentioned Earth or humans began to change. Trade agreements dissolved into static. Star charts rearranged themselves. Historical records rewrote themselves as if humanity had never existed. Database scrubbing at 60% completion, Han reported. All major trade hubs, military installations, and government archives are being updated. But the real work was happening inside the minds of trillions of alien beings. The psychic arrays sent out invisible waves that found every memory of humans and carefully erased them. A Centauri merchant who had done business with human traders for years suddenly couldn't remember their faces. A vegan diplomat who had negotiated peace treaties with Earth. Ambassadors found those memories fading like morning mist. Kong watched the progress report scroll across his screen. The operation was working perfectly. In just 3 days, they would eliminate the human problem without firing a single shot. No one would remember that Earth had ever existed. "What about the humans who are already living on other worlds?" Han asked. "There are millions of them scattered across the galaxy. They work on space stations, serve in alien militaries, run businesses on colony planets." Kong had thought about this problem. Without Earth in the records, they'll have no proof of where they came from. Any human who claims to be from a planet that doesn't exist will be treated as mentally ill. Phantom World Syndrome, it's a known condition among deep space travelers. The second day brought more success. Memory wipes were proceeding ahead of schedule. Even the most advanced alien species were forgetting that humans had ever existed. The spider-like beings of Kepler-4, for to be known for their perfect memories, were having their distributed neural networks carefully scrubbed clean. "Sir, we're getting reports of some resistance from certain alien species," Han said, looking worried. "The crystalline beings on Proxima Centauri are showing unusual brain activity. The gas dwellers near Jupiter are experiencing what their doctors call emotional echoes, minor glitches." Kong dismissed. "The process isn't perfect, but it doesn't need to be. A few confused feelings won't matter when there's no context to understand them." By the third day, the work was nearly complete. Star charts across the galaxy now showed empty space where Earth's yellow sun had once shone. The third planet that had been home to 8 billion humans was simply gone from all records. Trade routes that had once connected Earth to the galactic economy had been rerouted. Treaties signed by human governments had vanished from diplomatic archives. "Operation Clean Slate is complete," Han announced. "All major systems have been updated. Memory wipes are showing 97% effectiveness across all tested species." Kong allowed himself a small smile. The human problem was solved. Without their homeworld, without any official recognition of their existence, the scattered humans across the galaxy would slowly disappear. They would be forgotten, dismissed, ignored until they gave up their troublesome ways or simply faded away. "Excellent work. Lieutenant Buchanan begins shutting down the psychic arrays. We won't need them anymore." As the massive machines powered down, Kong felt satisfied. The galaxy would return to its proper order. No more human curiosity disrupting careful plans, no more human friendship threatening established hierarchies, no more human stubbornness challenging the way things had always been done. But as he walked to his private quarters, Kong made a crucial mistake. He had erased Earth from every database and wiped the memories of every alien mind. He had eliminated every trace of human civilization from galactic records. He had made it impossible for anyone to prove that humanity had ever existed. What he had forgotten was simple but fatal. Humans themselves would still remember. Every human, merchant, soldier, explorer, and settler scattered across the galaxy would wake up tomorrow knowing exactly where they came from. They would remember their blue and green homeworld, their families, their history, and humans, being human, would not quietly accept being erased. The real fight was about to begin. Lee wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished his shift. In the deep mining tunnels of Asteroid Station Gamma 7, the work was hard, but he had been doing it for 3 years now, saving money to visit his family back on Earth. Tonight, he planned to book his transport home. He walked to the station's navigation center and activated the holographic star chart. The three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared before him, millions of stars twinkling in the artificial light. Lee scrolled through the coordinates, looking for the familiar yellow star that was home. But when he reached the right location, there was nothing there, just empty black space. "That's strange," Lee muttered. He tried again, this time using voice commands. "Computer, show me the Sol system." "I do not understand your request," the computer replied in its cheerful, artificial voice. Lee felt his heart start beating faster. "Computer, locate Earth, third planet from Sol." "No such system exists in galactic records," came the response. Lee's hands began to shake. This had to be some kind of mistake. He had been born on Earth, grown up in the busy streets of Sol, studied engineering at the university there. His parents still lived in the same apartment where he had learned to walk. His sister worked at the spaceport where he had first left for the asteroid mines. "Computer, show me my personnel file," he demanded. His information appeared on the screen. Name, Lee, age 28, occupation, mining engineer, place of birth, data corrupted, next of kin, data corrupted, emergency contact, data corrupted, everything about his home, his family, his entire life before coming to the mining station had been wiped clean. 3,000 kilometers away on communications station Beachwell's Officer Park was having her own nightmare. She had just submitted her request for home leave, something she did every 6 months to visit her parents on Earth. But her supervisor, a tall blue-skinned Xanthari named Vex, was looking at her with confusion. "Earth?" Vex asked, his large eyes blinking slowly. "I have never heard of this place. Where is it located?" "It's in the Sol system," Park explained, trying to keep her voice calm. "Third planet from the sun. You approved my leave there, Ja." 6 months ago, Vex checked his computer. "I have no record of approving any leave to a place called Earth. Are you feeling well, Officer Park? Perhaps you need to see the medical staff." Park ran to her quarters and activated her personal computer. She pulled up photos of her family, messages from friends, records of her education, but as she watched in horror, the files began to change. Photos showed her alone where her parents should have been standing. Messages from Earth addresses showed error codes. Her university diploma now showed she had graduated from institution unknown. Across the galaxy, the same terrible discovery was being made by millions of humans. Captain Kim sat in his cargo ship staring at trade permits that had suddenly become invalid. The papers that had allowed him to transport goods from Earth now showed he was licensed to carry products from a planet that didn't exist. Dr. Yoon arrived at the alien hospital where she worked to find security guards waiting for her. Her medical degree, they said, was fraudulent. No such university as Earth Medical College existed anywhere in galactic records. She was banned from practicing medicine until she could provide proof of her real education. Security Chief Nam watched his entire career disappear from military databases. 20 years of service records, commendations, battle honors, all of it linked to something called the Terran Defense Force that had apparently never existed. His commanding officer looked at him with pity and suggested he seek help for his delusions, but humans had not survived and thrived across the galaxy by giving up when things got difficult. Lee was the first to realize that if the computers couldn't be trusted, he would have to find another way to reach other humans. He began leaving coded messages in the asteroid mining reports that got sent to other stations. Simple things that only humans would understand, references to Earth foods, mentions of old Earth movies, descriptions of blue skies and white clouds that no other planet had quite the same way. Park started using her access to the communications array to send subtle signals. She embedded human words in routine transmissions, hoping that other humans monitoring the channels would recognize them and respond. Within days, the messages started coming back. A maintenance worker on a space station near Vega sent a reply about missing real pizza. A translator working for the diplomatic corps mentioned dreaming about Earth rain. A pilot flying cargo runs between systems asked if anyone else remembered the sound of ocean waves. The network grew slowly but steadily. Humans were careful, using dead drops in cargo holds, leaving notes in maintenance tunnels, communicating. Through work schedules and duty rosters, they developed a simple code based on things only humans would know: the taste of chocolate, the feeling of grass under bare feet, the way snow looked falling on city streets. They began calling themselves the Remembered, because even though the galaxy had forgotten them, they had not forgotten each other or the world they came from. They were ghosts in the machine now, invisible to the official records, but very much alive and determined to find out what had happened to their home. The resistance was beginning to form. Dr. Choi had spent most of his career studying how different alien species think and remember. His work took him to research stations across the galaxy, where he interviewed creatures with minds so different from humans that understanding them was like solving impossible puzzles. This unusual job had given him a skill that would prove very valuable. He knew how to spot when something was wrong with alien memories. He was working on Kepler Station, studying the spider-like beings who lived on the planet below. These creatures were strange even by galactic standards. Instead of having one brain like most species, their nervous systems spread throughout their entire bodies like a web. Each of their 8 legs could think independently, and their memories were stored in thousands of tiny nodes, scattered across their spider-like frames. During one of his regular research sessions, Choi was interviewing an ancient matriarch, a spider being so old that her body had grown to the size of a small vehicle. Her multiple eyes glowed softly as she spoke in the clicking language of her people. Dr. Who asks questions. She clicked slowly. You remind me of the warm world that was. Choi nearly dropped his recording device. What did you say? The warm world that was, she repeated. The place of the stubborn ones who made friends with all species. The ones who laughed and cried and helped others, even when it cost them much. Choi's heart began pounding. She was talking about Earth and humans, but that was impossible. That wrought memory wipe should have erased all knowledge of humanity from alien minds. Yet here was this ancient creature speaking about humans as if she remembered them clearly. Tell me more about these stubborn ones, Choi said carefully. The matriarch's eyes grew distant. They came to our world when we were at war with the crystal singers of the next system. The stubborn ones had no reason to help us, but they did anyway. They sat with both sides and talked until we all remembered that fighting was foolish. She paused, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. But now the memories are like smoke. They slip away when I try to hold them. Choi realized what had happened. The psychic wipe had worked on most alien species because they had single, centralized brains. But the spider beings' distributed nervous systems had protected some of their memories. The erasure hadn't been complete. He began traveling to other research stations, carefully interviewing different alien species under the pretense of his regular work. What he discovered amazed him. The memory wipe had left traces everywhere. On Proxima Station, he met with the crystalline beings, creatures made of living rock who communicated through musical vibrations. When he played certain Earth songs that he hummed from memory, their crystal bodies resonated with emotions they couldn't explain. This sound pattern creates feelings of warmth, friendship, gratitude, sang one of the crystal beings. We do not understand why, but it feels like remembering something good that we have lost. The gas dwellers near the outer planets were even more interesting. These cloud-like creatures lived in the atmospheres of gas giants, floating through storms that would destroy any solid ship. When Choi visited their floating research platform, they spoke to him through translation devices. Strange solid being, they whispered in their breathy voices. Your thought patterns remind us of the helpful ones who came before. They spoke for us when the trade masters tried to cheat us. They made fair deals possible. Everywhere Choi looked, he found fragments, pieces of suppressed memories that the psychic wipe couldn't completely destroy. Some aliens remembered human laughter. Others recalled human stubbornness in the face of unfairness. A few even had vague impressions of Earth itself, a blue and green world where the helpful ones had come from. Choi began secretly contacting the growing network of humans he had heard about through coded messages. He met with Captain Kim at a remote trading post, sharing his discoveries about the incomplete memory wipe. This changes everything, Kim said, his eyes bright with hope. If some aliens remember fragments, we can help them remember more. Engineer Lee had made his own discovery while working on the computer systems of various mining stations. He had noticed that certain AI programs crashed when asked about specific areas of space. exactly the areas where Earth and human colonies should be located. The computers know something's wrong, Lee explained during a secret meeting in an abandoned cargo bay. They have error logs full of references to missing data files, broken links to information that should be there but isn't. Dr. Yoon had found similar problems in medical databases. I've been quietly checking hospital records across 3 systems, she reported. There are thousands of medical files that reference human physiology and Terran medical standards. The files are marked as errors now, but they're still there. The humans began working together more systematically. They established what they called memory havens, hidden databases on abandoned space stations and forgotten asteroids where they stored every scrap of information about Earth they could recover. Old trade records, broken AI files, fragments of alien memories, everything went into these secret archives. Captain Kim used his knowledge of forgotten trade routes to establish supply lines between human groups. His cargo ship became a mobile command center, carrying messages and supplies to humans scattered across dozens of systems. The remembered were no longer just confused people trying to prove they existed. They had become something more dangerous to those who had erased them. They had become a resistance with a plan. Security. Chief Nam had always been good at getting into places he wasn't supposed to be. It was a skill that had served him well during his years with the Terran Defense Force, and now it would help him strike back at those who had erased his people from history. The Confederation research facility on Draco Station was supposed to be impenetrable. Multiple security checkpoints, armed guards, and scanning systems that could detect the smallest weapon. But Nam had spent weeks studying the facility's routines, learning the guard schedules, and identifying the one weakness in their defenses they had never planned for someone who officially didn't exist. Nam used forged identification papers, claiming to be a maintenance worker from a species so obscure that most guards had never seen one. His alien disguise was simple but effective, a breathing mask that covered most of his face and a bulky environmental suit that hid his human shape. He slipped through the facility's corridors during the night shift, following maintenance tunnels that led to the restricted research levels. What he found there made his blood run cold. Massive machines filled entire rooms, their surfaces covered with strange symbols and pulsing lights. These were the psychic manipulators that had erased Earth from galactic memory. Nom carefully photographed everything he could, hiding tiny recording devices in equipment panels and copying data files onto storage chips. The technical specifications were incredibly complex, but he didn't need to understand everything. He just needed enough information for Dr. Choi to figure out how the machines worked. When Nam finally escaped the facility 3 days later, he carried with him the blueprints for humanity's revenge. Dr. Choi studied the stolen data with growing excitement. The psychic manipulation technology was based on quantum entanglement principles that connected individual minds to a massive neural network. By understanding how the machines erased memories, he could theoretically reverse the process. It's like a lock and key, Choi explained to the other leaders of the Remembered during a secret meeting on an abandoned mining station. They used specific psychic frequencies to suppress memories about humans and Earth. If we can generate the reverse frequency, we should be able to unlock those suppressed memories. How do we build something like this? Asked Captain Kim. We don't have access to Confederation research facilities or their advanced technology. Choi smiled. We don't need to build the big machines. We just need to create small devices that can plant what I call memory seeds. Tiny psychic triggers that will slowly unlock suppressed memories over time. Working together, the humans began constructing their own psychic devices using stolen components and improvised technology. The crystal beings who remembered fragments of human friendship provided rare minerals needed for the psychic circuits. The gas dwellers donated exotic matter that could amplify psychic signals. Even the spider-like matriarchs contributed, weaving neural networks that could store and transmit memory patterns. The plan they developed was bold and dangerous. They would simultaneously attack galactic civilizations' most important institutions, planting memory seeds in computer systems, government databases, and communication networks. When activated, these seeds would slowly restore knowledge of Earth and humanity across the galaxy. They called it Operation Phoenix Rising. Captain Kim led the attack on the Central Trade Hub, the massive space station that controlled commerce. Throughout 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, his crew, disguised as routine cargo handlers, infiltrated the station's computer core and began uploading corrupted data files. Trade records that had been erased suddenly reappeared, showing years of commerce between Earth and alien worlds. Dr. Yoon infiltrated the Galactic Medical Authority, accessing the central databases that controlled healthcare information across thousands of worlds. She carefully restored references to human anatomy, human diseases, and human medical procedures. Suddenly, alien doctors found their computers recognizing a species they had never heard of. Engineer Lee targeted the mining operations that supplied raw materials to half the galaxy. He reactivated old contracts for Terran minerals and Earth-based rare elements. Mining computers that had been showing error codes for months suddenly found valid orders for materials from a world that didn't exist. The memory seeds spread like a virus through galactic computer networks. Each one was programmed to activate slowly, restoring suppressed memories gradually so that the target's store wouldn't realize what was happening until it was too late. The effects began within hours. On Vega Prime, the alien Minister of Trade sat in his office reviewing routine reports when he suddenly remembered signing a major agreement with human ambassadors 5 years earlier. The memory was so clear and detailed that he immediately called his secretary to locate the treaty documents. Banking consortiums' central computers began showing massive discrepancies in their accounts. Billions of credits belonged to human corporations that had supposedly never existed. Account managers stared in confusion at transaction records showing years of business with Terran Industries and Earth manufacturing. Military bases across the galaxy experienced similar chaos. Personnel databases began recognizing human officers who had been classified as data errors for months. Alien commanders found service records appearing for soldiers they had worked with but couldn't officially acknowledge. Fleet Admiral Kong was reviewing routine reports in his office when Lieutenant Han burst through the door, his face pale with panic. "Sir, we have a major problem," Han gasped. "The memory suppression is failing. Reports are coming in from every sector. Aliens are remembering humans. Trade records are reappearing. The humans are somehow making them remember everything." Kong felt his carefully ordered world beginning to collapse. The perfect erasure that had taken years to plan and execute was unraveling in a matter of hours. Somewhere out there, the humans he had tried to forget were fighting back. And they were winning. Captain Kim stood on the bridge of his cargo ship, staring at the scanner readings that made no sense. According to every instrument, there was nothing in this section of space, just empty darkness where Earth's sun should be shining. But the Remembered had spent months piecing together clues, following trade routes that led nowhere, tracking navigation errors that all pointed to the same coordinates. "There's something here," whispered Engineer Lee, studying the sensor data. "The readings are wrong. Space doesn't behave like this naturally." Dr. Choi nodded from his position at the science station. "The psychic manipulation equipment we studied. It mentioned cloaking technology. What if they didn't destroy Earth? What if they just hid it?" Kim made the decision that would change everything. "Take us forward, slow and steady. If there's something there, we're going to find it." As the ship moved deeper into the seemingly empty space, strange things began to happen. The stars seemed to bend and twist around them. Their instruments gave readings that contradicted what their eyes could see. Then, suddenly, like passing through an invisible wall, everything changed. The yellow sun blazed before them, bright and warm, and exactly as they remembered. And their third planet from the star was Earth. Blue oceans sparkled under white clouds. The familiar shapes of continents were clearly visible. Their home world was not only intact, it was beautiful. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Choi. "It's really there. Earth is really there." As they approached the planet, Kim's communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect Korean, warm and welcoming. "Unknown vessel, this is Earth's Defense Control. Please identify yourself and state your business." Kim's hands shook as he reached for the microphone. After months of being told that Earth didn't exist, hearing those words felt like a miracle. "This is Captain Kim, representing the Remembered. We're coming home." There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, with what sounded like tears of joy. "Captain Kim, this is Admiral Park. Welcome home. We've been waiting for you." The shuttle that carried Kim and his team to Earth's surface passed over cities that were bigger and more advanced than when they had left. Defensive shields shimmered around major population centers. Weapon platforms orbited the planet like protective satellites. Earth had not been sitting idle during its isolation. Admiral Park met them at the landing pad, a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that held both sadness and determination. Behind her stood dozens of other humans, scientists, soldiers, civilians, all eager to hear news from the scattered children of Earth. "We know what happened," Park said as she greeted the returning travelers. "We've been monitoring galactic communications since the moment they cut us off. We heard your coded messages. We tracked the memory restoration operation. We know about the remembered and what you've accomplished. But how did you survive?" asked Dr. Choi. "How did you prepare for this?" Park smiled grimly. "We had 3 years of warning. Our deep space monitoring stations detected the psychic manipulation arrays being built long before Operation Clean Slate began. We knew they were planning something terrible, so we prepared. We built the cloaking field, strengthened our defenses, and waited." Kim looked around at the bustling spaceport, the advanced technology, the confident faces of Earth's defenders. "You've been preparing for war. We've been preparing for the day our children would come home," Park corrected. "And for the day we would have to protect them." That day came sooner than anyone expected. Long-range sensors detected the Confederation fleet approaching, dozens of warships led by Admiral Kong's massive flagship. They were coming to finish what they had started, to destroy the world they had tried to erase. But as the enemy fleet dropped out of hyperspace, they found something they hadn't expected. Earth was not alone. Ships from across the galaxy had gathered in the system. The spider beings of Kepler had sent their finest vessels, their crews eager to help the who had brought peace to their world. The crystalline beings contributed their ships that sang through space, their hulls resonating with protective harmonies. Gas-dweller vessels floated like living clouds, ready to defend their human friends. The memory seeds had done more than restore information, they had awakened emotions. Gratitude for human kindness, respect for human fairness, affection for the species that made friends with everyone they met. Admiral Kong stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He had come to destroy a defenseless world, but instead faced a united fleet of species that had rediscovered their love for humanity. The battle was fierce but brief. Earth's defenders fought with the desperation of people protecting their home, while their alien allies fought with the passion of friends defending friends. Human ships used tactics learned from years of living among alien cultures, while alien vessels employed technologies shared freely with their human partners. When Kong's flagship was surrounded and disabled, a communication came from Earth's surface. Admiral Park's voice was calm but firm. "Admiral Kong, this is Earth Defense Command. You tried to erase us from the maps, but you couldn't erase us from the hearts of those who knew us. We surrender your fleet to the judgment of the galactic community." The war was over. The galaxy remembered. Humanity was home, and they were no longer alone.